Hello and welcome back to the Pulse with Willie and Al. How you doing today, Al?
Hey Willie, living the dream, man. Little under the weather today. I got my COVID booster and my flu shot at the same time yesterday. Yeah, we're ready to rock and roll though.
Oh, that's a little rough. Well, listen, I'll
Yeah,
keep the energy high for us today.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
and especially on this one, man, we're dropping our 20th episode today, the big 2-0.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Oh,
man. Yeah, this is our we're gonna talk about Cincinnati, San Francisco today. Also, we're gonna give you a big World Series preview before Friday night's game.
well, and that's befitting of the title because it's World Series or Bust episode. So,
Yes, sir.
but just wanted to mention, guys, before we jump in here, make sure to smash that subscribe button and like the video. Let us know what you like and what you think we can do better. But let's take it away. Sunday game we're going to look at, the big one that we've got is Cincinnati versus San Francisco. And looking at that, it looks like San Francisco is getting 3.5. The over under on it's 43.5. Now I just want to start and preface this by saying, like you said before, that this was going to be a very interesting game because we were going to find out a lot about both teams this game. So
Yeah.
why don't you break that open, explain that a little bit?
Yeah, I think this is a big test for both teams. I think that San Francisco, they're on a two-game losing streak and they're kind of trending downwards. And granted, they're dealing with a rash of injuries, but you still got to play the games. And Cincinnati I think, has righted the ship a little bit, and they're trending upwards. So I think this is going to be a big game for both of them. I think this is a must-win game for both teams, and unfortunately, only one team can win. But I really think Cincinnati needs this more because the division that they play in, I'm a little, you know what I mean? Like every win counts at this point, and they're going to need it if they're going to make the playoffs and win that division.
Yeah, and that's you're absolutely right about that. Looking at a few things there, the rumors of possibly Saquon Barkley going to the Ravens and how Pittsburgh's seemingly putting together wins, how tough Cleveland is. Like Cincinnati definitely needs this win. I think a lot more than San Francisco, and we're going to dive into that a little bit more. But let's talk about you had mentioned the rash of injuries there. Purdy's in concussion protocol. He's not going to be playing Sunday. Debo's been ruled out. Trent Williams is questionable. Like, they're going to be rolling out Sam Darnold this week. What are your thoughts on him?
The man likes to see ghosts.
Yeah.
That's all I have on that. But no, they picked him up and they obviously liked him more than they liked Trey Lance because they traded Trey Lance.
Mhm.
They saw enough out of him in camp that they thought he could be a serviceable backup. Um, I don't think that he's a guy you want playing every game, but I think in a spot start, I think he'll be fine.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, San Francisco still has that defense, and that's going to keep them in this game.
Yeah.
So,
I'll be honest with you too. Like, when you have a guy like Christian McCaffrey, like, you have a lot of playmakers still on offense, even with Debo Samuel out. You still got Kittle there. You still
yeah,
got Ayuk. McCaffrey's a stud, man. 11 touchdowns already through 8 games. He's leading the NFL in rushing. Like, what he brings to this team is more than just a running back. Like, in my honest opinion, he is the best hands of any non-receiver in the NFL. And a
yeah,
lot of very very good receivers, he is better at catching the football than. He's a polished route runner. He understands coverage in a way that most people don't, and I think a lot of that stems from, his father being such a good receiver when he was in the NFL, him kind of
yeah.
bringing him up and teaching him the ropes. But the crazy thing about it is he's not just a finesse player. This guy can be powerful when he needs to be. I know he's got the durability concern, but what do you see in McCaffrey?
I think really too, especially with them playing Cincinnati, I think McCaffrey can run through those tackles because Cincinnati is a team you can run on. You know what I mean? Defensively, they're a bend but don't break defense. And I think that you're going to see a lot of McCaffrey on Sunday getting a lot of big plays and big yards. Even if they don't have Trent Williams, I still like this line enough, their offensive line enough that I think McCaffrey's going to be a-okay.
Yeah, and listen, if some of these guys are missing more time, Purdy, Samuel, Williams, I definitely think San Francisco's only going to be able to go as far as McCaffrey can carry them. I know their defense plays a big part in that, but they're going to need to still put up points. Their defense can only do so much, and their job is to limit the amount of points the opponent scores. But they have to be able to produce on offense, and I really think he's the key to that. So,
Yeah.
the
Also,
yeah, go ahead.
also for San Francisco, on the off chance that Darnold gets hurt, it's Brandon Allen as their backup for Sunday. So
Ooh.
just something to keep in mind as well.
Yeah,
So
that's a tough thing. Well,
it's not
listen,
great.
I was just going to mention, what really wins in the playoffs. We talked about this before, but running the ball well and playing good defense, and they can do that on this team. They're going to need to with Purdy out, but
Yeah.
I think Darnold actually is going to play better than people think, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that. I know you had talked about the defense. Listen, they are just like the Ravens. This 49er defense, they've only given up more than 20 points once this year. They're the best against the rush in the NFL. They're also conveniently the best against the pass in the NFL. And just
Yeah.
looking at some of these statistics, man, 15 sacks, 11 picks. They only allowed seven touchdowns through the air and 3 on the ground. So 10 touchdowns through 8 games. They're averaging giving up a little more than 1 per game.
Yeah.
That's a very good average to have.
And I think too with this defense, I Burrow's a guy that takes a lot of sacks. And I think Burrow is just getting healthy now, and I do there is some concern with me for Cincinnati in this game. Like I think it's just gonna be all out Fred Warner, Nick Bosa just pinning their ears back and just getting after Burrow.
Yeah.
And I think that's really gonna play a big factor into this. And when we do our predictions, I think that factors very heavily into my prediction. So
Well, it's interesting you mentioned Fred Warner because I feel like we've talked so much about Nick Bosa, but let's mention the key cog in this defense being Fred Warner. Like this guy, every single week it seems like he's a highlight reel, right? So fast, so dynamic. You watch his
yeah,
ability to diagnose a play quickly and effectively, and he's helped elevate not only this team but this defense in a way that Nick Bosa doesn't have to be that dude. Fred Warner can
yeah,
step in and be that guy. I mean, you've seen it. He runs sideline to sideline. I know I've sent you clips on Instagram of him where it's like,
yeah.
I would be scared to play against this guy. I really would be.
And he would be considered the best linebacker in the league if it wasn't for Micah Parsons.
Yeah,
That's the thing. Like people would be talking about him a lot more if Micah Parsons wasn't as good as he was.
yeah.
And and that's a luxury to have on for the 49ers. Like they have a guy that's just as good as Parsons, that is just as fast, just and really a smart player too.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't take dumb penalties. He doesn't take those dumb like lowering the crown. Like he hits hard but plays smart, and he's always in the right position to make the right play.
He's a great leader on this team, and
Yeah,
that's something like you don't get points for that, but it's really great to see and amazing to watch because he's bringing other guys on this team under his wing when he does that stuff. So, uh,
yeah,
let me ask, how does the defense handle Jamar Chase? Because I mean, he's such a dynamic playmaker. I love watching him play. He's arguably my favorite receiver in the league, aside from like Tyreek Hill, just because the way I watch him play, like you never know. I always want to see the gritty man. I always do, and
yeah.
he's amazing to watch. He was at LSU. He's been amazing in the pros. How does this defense take care of him?
I mean, it starts. I know I feel like I'm a broken record when I say this, but like Jamar Chase has earned the respect of, hey, you have to double cover this guy at all times.
Hmm.
You can't just single cover him because Burrow's going to find that, and then it's over. Like he's just so big, so tall, so fast. Like you have to have two guys on him, or else your day is going to be just a nightmare.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Now, what do you think they're going to do? Because you had mentioned before that you think they're going to attack Joe Burrow. What do you think they're going to do to try to throw him off on this?
well, I think what they're going to do is, and this is the thing, San Francisco's so good that all they have to do is rush four,
Hmm.
like which means you have seven back in coverage, which means you can definitely double chase. And I really think they're just gonna keep blitzing. They have to with Burrow because like that line is suspect. I know every year they're like, well, we fixed the line, but turns out they really don't. Um,
Broken
and
record.
Mixon really isn't a threat to
Yeah,
run the ball.
he hasn't
And
been
you're not
this
gonna
year. Hmm.
and you're not gonna run the ball in this defense. You're just not. I'm sorry. So it's all gonna ride on Burrow. And I think if I'm Burrow, I think you take a lot of snaps in the shotgun
Yeah.
because you need that extra time. You cannot do 3-step or 5-step dropbacks because you're going to get murdered. He's going to have to take a lot out of the shotgun.
Well, this is something I wanted to point out because, like you talked about the offensive line, and like there's been this perception that the offensive line has gotten better, as the season has gone on so far. And granted, we're only 7 weeks in, right? Like they I think had their bye week now, so we're going into week 8 now, but. They've played 6 games. The first 3 games they gave up 5 sacks and 21 quarterback hits. And
Yeah.
they've been playing better, I think, the last 3 games than they did in the first 3. But in the last 3 games, they've given up almost double the amount of sacks, 9 sacks, and 19 quarterback hits. So when I look at that, the reason I bring this up is it seems to actually be getting worse in terms of protection for him. And this is not a week you want to be trending in the wrong direction, not against this defense. That's a very concerning piece for me about this team.
Yeah, that's the thing too. To go back with Mixon real quick, he's averaging under 4 yards a carry. So like San Francisco doesn't have to be honest against playing the run. Like they don't have to worry about that. So which means, yeah, Burrow has 14 sacks on the year. Like I'm really worried about him in this game, and I really think he's going to take some hits. And dudes like Fred Warner and Nick Bosa, they're hard hitters.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm really concerned about him for this game.
Well,
I really am.
this is one thing I will say about this offense. Like they need to get a tackle and a tight end on Bosa every single play. They've got to do that
Yep.
to try to take care of him. At least to slide protections over to try to do what they can to limit that because and that's any team that plays the 49ers. You have to do that, right? But
Yep.
one thing and listen, I'm not going to dive into their offensive stats too much because I know they're kind of skewed a little bit. They always get off to slow starts, this and that. But Burrow could end the season with throwing 20 picks, and he would probably lead the league in interceptions at that point. But
Oh yeah.
he could make enough bad decisions through the year, and this team still could sneak into the playoffs. And I'll tell you, this is a team that if they do make the playoffs, you do not want to play them. So all he needs is
Yeah.
just that window, right? Like we're going to talk about it with the World Series teams, right? They just had a little bit of a little glimpse of vision. They get in there and boom, look at what they've done. So
Yep.
that's a team that is definitely scary to me, but this is some surprising stuff I want to tell you about Cincinnati. Is
Mm.
that when you think of the Bengals, you do not think of them having a great defense. But let me give you a few statistics here. They've only given up 16 more points than the 49ers this year.
That's
And
insane.
yeah,
I
and granted, the 49ers have played one extra game than them. I get that piece of it, but they're third against the rush and the pass. They are deceptively good. And okay, so before we talked about
huh,
the statistics with the 49ers, right? 15 sacks, 11 picks, 10 touchdowns that they've given up. The
right.
Bengals, 19 sacks this year, 8 picks, and 8 touchdowns through the air, 5 on the ground. So they are deceptively good in terms of
Yeah.
that. Now, granted, there's one less game in there, right? So it's not as good as it seems, but they're better than I would think. I'd think of a lot of defenses in the NFL being better than them, and it really isn't statistically true.
Well, I think where the bad rap on Cincinnati on defense is 3 of the first 4 games, they let up 24, 27, and 27 points. Like,
Yeah.
so I think that is what, at least for me, I'll be honest with you, that's what's skewed in my brain, that I don't think that they're a good defense because I watched a lot of them the first 4 weeks. And I was like, boy, this team is not good. But I mean, to be fair, they've won 2 in a row. I mean, they've let up 20 points to the Cardinals and only 13 to the Seahawks. So
Yeah, against a
yeah,
good
maybe they are
Seahawks
turning this
team.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hope I my question is, do you think they're going to be able to slow down this 49ers offense? Because they're going to have Sam Darnold, so it's going to be a little bit. It's not the 49ers offense we're used to seeing, but do you think they're going to be able to at least slow them a bit to stay competitive in this game?
Well, I think that Sam. No, I look as a Patriots fan that watched Sam Darnold for a while on the Jets. Like the dude's not good. He is not good, and I worry that like he's gonna throw some bad picks. He's gonna force it in there, and I think that Cincinnati can legitimately get to this guy. Like I think that they can. I think they can disrupt him enough because he's shown over the years like he doesn't really have the talent. Like he's destined as a career backup, and that's okay. But like there are limitations to him.
Well, and if T Dubs isn't there, they're going to have a better shot at getting to the quarterback.
Yeah,
That's for sure. But let me ask you: could we be looking at a potential Super Bowl matchup here?
I have seen enough from San Francisco the last couple of weeks. I know they've gotten hurt, so I know that plays a part in it. But like what happened against the Vikings was a weird game. Like
Yeah.
that shouldn't have they had all the talent in the world. They should have won that game going away. And they didn't for some reason. And that's a little concerning to me. And I think teams have kind of figured out offensively what to do with the 49ers.
Well,
You know what I mean? I think you're gonna start seeing that more and more. And I think the days of them blowing out teams isn't really gonna be a thing much longer. And especially because they have a big matchup coming up against Philly as well. That
mhm.
I don't know, man. Like if you look at their schedule coming up, they got the bye after this. It's Jacksonville, Tampa, Seattle, Philly, Seattle. Like those are all hard games.
Yeah.
Like those are all going to be slugfest. Like
Well, even
Tampa,
Arizona after that, dude. They have Kyler Murray coming back. Then they go Baltimore, Washington, the Rams. Like
yeah,
it's not a great schedule. It's not bad, but like you're right. They're gonna have tough matches coming up here that are gonna be
yeah.
difficult for them to get through. They've got to use that bye to heal up. Uh,
And Cincinnati's schedule is no slouch either, though. Like
yeah,
say, like they got Buffalo, Houston. Like say what you want about Houston, but Houston at least plays teams tough.
yeah, they do.
Like Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, the Colts. They're kind of scrappy.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then they still have to play Kansas City, Pittsburgh again. Like
Yeah, and
their
Cleveland
schedule's
too.
not.
Like it's not. Plus Minnesota's in
Yeah,
there, right? They're stealing games, and we had talked about this last week. Like, what if San Francisco sleeps on Minnesota, and like just has like Minnesota does everything they need to do, and the game stays close, and that's exactly what happened. Like they capitalized off plays, and they were able to win. And Jordan Addison looked incredible. Like with him
was a
and Jefferson on
stud.
the field. Yeah, dude, he looked really good. And I'm not just saying
Yeah,
that because he had 2 touchdowns. When you go back and you look at the catches he was making, especially the first touchdown catch that he had, when he
yeah,
runs over the middle, like he's running in between. Cousins threw that in between coverage to hit him.
yeah,
That was a
yeah. He threaded the
beautiful.
needle on that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the other touchdown he had where like he basically it looked like the defender had the ball and he ripped it away from him and then the defender falls
Yeah.
down and he runs another 25 yards like I mean that guy looks like a player. It really does. So I
And
mean
we had talked about in previous episodes too with Jefferson going out that we're like, hey, Addison's got to step up, and
yeah.
if that's what we're going to see, like Minnesota might is going to hang around in some games. Like I'm not sure they're going to win a lot of games, but they're going to hang around at least.
No one wants to play them, and that's like I feel
No,
like there's a few teams in the NFL this year that obviously there's some that are in the cellar, right? That people are like, okay, we're gonna beat those teams, and Arizona's kind of said like, hey, we're in the cellar, but we're the toughest one in the cellar. Just
yeah,
but some of those that upper that next echelon of teams with Miami, and I put Indy in there too, Pittsburgh. Those are teams people don't want to play. Like they play
no,
people tough, man. They've got bangers on those teams, like right. Like no one's suiting up saying, "Oh, okay, like yeah, oh, who do we have against? Who are we playing against today? Oh, we've got Kirk Cousins. Oh, but Jefferson was there, and Addison, and Hawkinson, and Madison. No, like no
yeah,
one's saying like, okay, let's do that. Not a lot of people signing up for that. So
yeah.
but listen, we don't want to get off track here. I know Cincinnati's got a tough road ahead of them. That's why I think they have to win this game. And that is why I'm picking them to win this game. So I have them winning 24-17. What do you have for a score?
I actually, I hate to say this, and god damn it that I'm going to say this, but I have the 49ers winning this game 21-16. I really think
Oh,
that I really think that defense is going to be a nightmare for Burrow. I
okay.
really do.
Yeah, maybe they